So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we're continuing with the series of going through some big mark questions taken from some higher GCSE past papers. Now before we get started, a little reminder that if you're wanting a copy of the questions to attempt at, which I strongly recommend you do before watching this video as we go through the answers, then all you need to do is to simply click on the link in the description. If your answer differs to what I'm doing on the video, or your method's slightly different, then all you need to do is I'll include the mark scheme so you can see how many marks your answer is worth, but also see if your method is valid. I'll also include a link to the 162 Maths contents page, which gives you full access to all the lessons that's covering all the topics at GCSE Maths, along with other useful revision resources like the GCSE audits for both higher and foundation and past paper walkthroughs. So let's get started on these questions. So looking at question 1, which related box plots, so let's just zoom in so we can see it completely on the screen. So question 1 says the race was run in 2019 and 2020. The box plot shows information about finishing times in 2019. And for part A, it says in 2019, what was the fastest time? Now for the fastest time, we want the smallest amount, and that is going to be this number here. So using the scale, so we know that at this point here it's 15 and we're going from 20, so that means every little box represents half a minute. So the smallest value is going to be at 16, so the answer we need to write is 16. Then for B, it then says the table shows information about the finishing times in 2020. Use the data to comment on each of the following statements. So what we need to do here is, when comparing the average, what we want to do here is compare the medians. So looking at the table for 2020, we can see that the median is 24 and the median for 2019 is going to be 22.5. So it's this value here that I want to compare with this value here. Now as you can see, we've got a smaller median in 2019, so I need to write something along the lines of and the question is asking, on average, we need to comment on each of the following statements. So on average, times were faster in 2019 and 2020. Well, this is going to be true, as the median in 2019, which I'm just going to quote, is 22.5 minutes, was smaller, or should I say was quicker, than in 2020, and again I'm just going to quote that value of 24 minutes. Then it then says comment on the comment of times were equally consistent in 2019 and 2020. So here what we want to do is compare the IQRs. Now the IQR in 2020, so the IQR in 2020 is the upper quartile, take away the lower, so that's going to be 27 minus 21, which is 6. And I then want to work out the interquartile for 2019. So the IQR in 2019 is the size of the box. So we've got 26 minus 20, which is 6 minutes. And as you can see, these two amounts are the same, which means that the consistency is the same, and that is true as well. So that's true, as the IQR for 2019, which was 6, and 2020, which was also 6, is the same. So something along those lines with a bit of evidence will give you those 4 marks, and it's important that you state whether it's true or false and then a reason, explanation as to why. Then moving on to question 2, so looking at the Venn diagrams, it says the Venn diagram shows information about 80 people who visited an online shop, and we know that the total sample size of the population is 80 people. T represents the number of people who bought trainers, and H represents the number of people who bought a hoodie. So for part A, it says one person is chosen at random, work out the probability that they bought a hoodie. So what we're wanting is to know the total amount of this circle here. Now, as we know that all the numbers need to add up to give us 80. So from this, what we then need to do is we add up all the numbers that we know. So we've got 15 plus 8 plus x plus 2x, and that all adds up to 80. So simplifying the expression, we get 3x plus 23 equals 80. And I just need to solve this equation. So I take away 23. So 3x equals, and that's going to give me 57, and then dividing by 3 gives me an x value of 19. So I can then replace this with 19, and 2 times 19 is 38. So from this I can then answer the question. Now remember, the question is not asking how many people bought a hoodie, but it's a case of work out the probability of selecting someone who bought a hoodie. So to work out the probability, it's how many people bought a hoodie, which is 8 plus 19, which gives me an answer of 27. So it's going to be, the probability is going to be 27 over 80. Does that simplify? I don't think it does, so we leave that as the answer. Then for B, it says one person who bought trainers is chosen at random. Work out the probability that they bought a hoodie. So the population here is the T circle. So let me just get rid of that poor shading there. So we're looking at just this circle. Now the total number inside that yellow circle is going to be 15 plus 8, which gives me an answer of 23. And out of those 23, how many people bought a hoodie, which is the middle? So that's going to be 8. So the answer then is 8 over 23. And again, for 1 mark, doesn't simplify, but if it did, it'd be fine if I just left it as it is. Now moving on to question 3, it says x and y are integers, and we've got that 4x is inclusive between 8 and 20, and y minus 3x is less than 12. Work out the largest possible value of y. So for this, what we need to do is first of all work out our values of x that it could be. Now when solving these inequalities, we want to make sure that x is by itself. So I need to get rid of the 4. So to do that, what I need to do is divide everything by 4. So I'm going to end up with 2 and end up with x, and I'm going to end up with 5. Now looking at the expression for y, now if I use the smallest value of x, then which is going to be equal to 2. So what I end up with y minus 3 lots of 2 is less than 12. So y minus 6 is less than 12. So y is less than 18. Now if I use the largest value of x, which is going to be 5, I get y minus 3 lots of 5 is less than 12. So y minus 15 is less than 12. So y is less than 27. Now we're looking for the largest possible value of y. So in this expression, y is going to be 17, using that if I use the smallest value of x. But if I use this, then the biggest value of y I can get is going to be 26. And this one is obviously larger than 17. So the answer is 26. Then moving on to question 4, it says when converted to a fraction, 0.7 recurring is equal to 7 over 9. Work out the value of 0.4 recurring plus 0.07 recurring and write your answer as a fraction. So for this, what we need to do is first of all know that 0.4 recurring, and we need to convert that into a fraction. So if I make that equal to x, then I multiply both sides by 10. So we get 4.4 recurring. So what I end up with is 10x equals 4.4 recurring and single x equals 0.4 recurring. Now as the repeated pattern after the decimal point is the same, I can take those two expressions away. So I get 9x equals 4. So therefore x equals 4 over 9. So that's what this bit here equals. Now the next thing for me then to actually not that bit, it's what this bit equals. So next I need to convert is 0.07 recurring. Now for this I can use this expression here, because to get from this number to this number, what I need to do is divide by 10, or in other words multiply by 1 over 10. So here 7 over 9 multiplied by 1 over 10 gives me 7 over 90, and that's going to be equal to 0.7 recurring. Now alternately, what you could do is you could do the same method as what I've written in orange and get the same answer. So all that's left for me to then do is to combine these two things together. So here we've got 0.4 recurring plus 0.07 recurring. This equals 4 over 9 and this equals 7. Don't know what's right in there. It's going to be 7 over 90. And we're adding. Now when adding fractions, we want to get the denominators the same. So for this, I need to multiply the first fraction by 10. So that's going to be 40 over 90 plus 7 over 90. And now that denominators are the same, I just add the numerators together. So it's going to be 47 over 90. Does that simplify? No, it doesn't. So there is my final answer. Moving on to question 5, it says that x and y are acute angles. Sin x is equal to root 3 over 2, tan y is equal to 1, and w is equal to 3x minus 2y. Work out the value of cos w. Now for this, what we need to use is we need to use the exact values of trig. Now typically you'll be asked to work out the values, but what we need to do is we need to work out the angles. So here, if sin x equals root 3 over 2, then x is going to equal 60. And likewise, if tan y equals 1, then y is going to give me an answer of 45. And again, how I've got those is by memorizing the exact values of trig. So now I've got these two values of x and y. I can now use this expression to now work out what w is going to be. So w is going to equal 3 lots of x, which is 3 lots of 60, minus 2 lots of y, which is 45. So then w equals 180 minus 2 lots of 45, which is 90. So therefore w equals 90. And again, I've not finished because the question is asking me to work out cos w. So therefore cos 90, and again using your exact values of trig or the trig graph, whichever you prefer to use, is going to be equal to 0. So the answer then is 0. Moving on to question 6, it says f of x is equal to x minus 9 over 8, and g of x is equal to 2x squared plus 9, and h of x is equal to 4x. And the question is asking us to solve the inverse of x equals gh of x. So what I need to do is I need to work out each of these two components. Now starting with the inverse function of x. So for this, what we need to do is make the function of f equal to y. And then what I then need to do is make x the subject. So we take the 8 over to the other side, and then take the 9 over, so 8y plus 9 equals x. And then all I do is I change the x for the inverse function and change the y for an x. So the inverse function of f is going to give me this. The next thing for me then to work out is what gh of x is going to be. So let me just write that again because I've already messed up that. So let's write gh of x. Now what we're doing here is we're going to substitute h of x into g of x. So h of x is 4x. So wherever I see an x, I'm going to substitute that for 4x. So here I can see my x. So gh of x is going to be equal to 2 lots of 4x squared plus 9. And then all that's left for me to then do is expand and simplify. So this is going to be 2 lots of 8x. It's going to be 16x squared plus 9. And then expanding the brackets out, we get 32x squared plus 9. And that is what gh of x is equal to. So now all that's left for me to then do is make them both equal to each other, these two things here. And what that leaves me with is 8x plus 9 is equal to 32x squared plus 9. And then all I then need to do is solve this. So here we want to take all of this over to the other side. So we want to take away 8x and minus 9. And that leaves me with 32x squared minus 8x equals 0. Or equals 0 on this side. We don't like it on that side. So all that I need to do to now solve this is factorize this expression here. So again, factorizing this, we get 8x. And I'm going to end up with 4x minus 1 is equal to 0. So either 8x equals 0, in which x equals 0, or 4x minus 1 equals 0, in which I'm going to get 4x equal to 1, so x equals a quarter. So my answer is either going to be 0 or a quarter, or 0.25 if you want to go the decimal route. Moving on to our last question, it says here is a cyclic quadrilateral. It says work out the size of angle D. So for this, what we need to do is first of all look at what we know about cyclic quadrilaterals. Well, what do we know? Well, we know that all the angles added up, so A plus B plus C plus D equals 360 because it's quadrilateral, and we also know that opposite angles add up to 180, so A plus C equals 180 and B plus D equals 180. So what I now need to do is use these facts to now work out what x is going to be, what the angle is going to be. So these are the facts, and I've also been given this ratio here of A to B to C is in the ratio of 9 to 5 to 3. Now, if the ratio of this is 9 to 5 to 3, then what I can do is I can label this A as 9x, B as 5x, and C as 3x. Now, what do I know? Well, I know that opposite angles, so this angle here and this angle here, using this bit of information here, must add up to 180. So I know that 9x plus 3x equals 180. So simplifying this, we get 12x equals 180, and then solving for this, we get x equals 180 divided by 12, which gives me an answer of 15 degrees. So x equals 15 degrees. Now that I know that x equals 15 degrees, I can now work out what these angles are. So if C is 3x, well, that's therefore going to be 45. If B is 5x, 5 lots of 15 is going to be 75. And 9 lots of 15 is going to give me, that's going to give me 9 times 15, which gives me an answer of 90. And then from that, what we can then do, let me just double check, so I don't think that's right. It's actually 135. So let me just correct that. I knew it didn't sound right. So here we've got 135 degrees. So to work out D, it's going to be 360 minus 45 minus 75 minus 135. And then typing that all into my calculator, I'm just going to do now. All working out manually if this was on a non-calculator paper. Again, shouldn't be a problem for either. And we get an answer of 105 degrees. And there we go.